Hi, welcome to this edition of Blue Soccer. I'm John Dade and myself. Going to look back over Leinster's 27-all draw against Treviso, all year Pro 40 in action, and look forward to our match against Glasgow at the weekend. So lads, 27 apiece. It's kind of a seesaw game. We were behind and ahead, then behind and draw.
Yeah, it kind of shows you what happens when a team are really up for it and they really need the points and you don't. Having said that, a bit like the Edinburgh game, I was kind of impressed with their dedication considering those facts. You know, there was a lot of guys there that really got stuck in. Treviso are a serious piece of kit.
You think that those are
they're
thirds,
tough lads.
seconds/thirds, playing against pretty much three-quarters of the Italian national team.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
That's very true. But it has to be said, I mean, they're certainly a decent club side, Treviso. It was actually a good game that rewarded a second viewing. Some people were saying, it's crap. And I think there was kind of a bit of outcome bias there in terms of, Leinster didn't win against Treviso, so it must have been a bit poor. But it was a really, really good game. It was a really physical, intense game. Both teams went for it. We scored some nice tries. They scored some nice tries. As a rugby fan, I enjoyed it as a game. It's not one of the great games in history, but it was certainly a decent watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't seen it back on the. I saw it live, but I haven't seen it back. But
the try was worth it. I mean,
certainly, yeah.
Frawley's try was.
Oh yeah, it certainly was.
Superb.
It was a lovely set piece, wasn't it?
Yeah, but like just the lines of movement, that was fantastic. I suppose one of the main talking points of it was James Lowe and his, again, fantastic performance. Like that was his, I think it was his 19th try in 26 appearances for Leinster.
Well,
so that's a pretty epic strike rate that he has.
Yeah, he's half decent, all right, that lad, isn't he?
But again, I mean, you think that the quarterfinals are only the semi-finals only around the corner for against Toulouse. You'd wonder whether he's done enough to get into the starting 15.
Well, I think we said it the last few weeks. It's the one we have had a problem with second row. We've got a problem with scrum half, but we don't have such a problem at wing. Having said that, he's pretty handy lad to have.
He's a difference maker.
He makes something happen every game, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Like we were talking about the Ulster game, and maybe we were a bit predictable and stuff like that. He makes stuff happen. He'd be a guy that you couldn't plan for. And
that's what you need sometimes in a semi-final.
So well. I mean, that try he scored. I mean, there was nothing fancy about it, but it was just power and the turn at the end to make sure he got the ball down. It was just the guy's just an absolute predator when it comes to tries.
He's box office.
He is.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even his little interaction at one point with Nigel Owen about a pass that he threw at least a foot or a yard forward, still kind of wanting to have a go, and you know what I mean? Other lads would just be kind of accept the decision, walk off, trundle back onto the wing, kind of stay stunned, but he wants to be involved in the action all the time. I think like say even Leinster, if they're trying to sell season tickets or jerseys or whatever, he's sort of like nearly something they should be focusing on.
The one good thing is there's between 4 and 6 games left in our season, and that means there's between 4 and 6 games until when James Lowe doesn't have to be subject to this rule anymore.
Yeah.
So
unless we sign another one.
Well, we're not gonna apparently.
Well, Nick Dawson said we wouldn't, which I thought was surprised that he came out.
It's a good few weeks ago he said that.
That's right,
so you just never know what's going to happen with World Cup.
Injuries since.
True.
So you never know.
Serious ones too.
Yeah. No, it's a guy like that in a sport which can sometimes be ruled by defences. A guy like that just throws all your plans out the window when you're a defensive coach, and I think that's really important. Toulouse have it in guys like Cheslin, Kobe, and I think we need it too. I mean, neither of them are very good going the other way, but if you go out and win games, you don't go out to not lose them.
Yeah, but like John, you were joking earlier about your shirt, and generally rugby people are a little bit
everyone's more joking about John's shirts.
But generally speaking, rugby supporters or players are kind of conservative bunch. And do you want to take that chance and go out and win the game or not lose it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of, oh no, but like what happens if Luke McGrath gets injured? You know, it's a big risk to take to have your man O'Sullivan on the bench.
For
You know what I
90% of the game or something. you know?
Yeah, like so it's, do you know what I mean?
Well,
I wish
you know,
they'd just take that chance
I know
and go for
it
it.
happened to us before. You know, one of our key players getting injured in a big European semi-final. And the guy who came on did quite well.
He did.
So you never know. I mean,
But like he played a good bit. Like he wasn't a rookie.
oh yeah. Well, neither was Theo Sullivan at this stage. I mean, he's got what 10 caps.
Okay,
he's
but
played a certain amount of rugby.
Johnny had far more.
Oh,
than
Johnny
10
had, yeah,
caps.
he had a season of rugby underneath him, but or even more, in fact. But I at some point you know you have to shit or get off the pot. You know, and that's kind of, we're in a situation where we have three foreign players, 3 non-EU players. We can only play 2 of them.
Yeah.
So when I play the 2,
Game changers.
that'll cause the most damage rather than the 2 that'll make the fewer mistakes.
But if you think back to, now maybe we had more resources this time last year, but going into these big games, they drop low. Do you know what I mean? Like the final
They
of
did,
in Bilbao, like Lowe was in a suit.
Yeah.
In fairness, there was a lot of. I mean, we were in a bit of a trouble that way with scrum halves, in that Nick McCarthy was injured and O'Sullivan and Patterson hadn't come through. There literally was no other choice in the matter. There is a choice now, and there's also a choice. You know, in the second row, we've got Devon, we've got James Ryan. So you can use Fardy differently as well. So
but we've got nobody else much.
No, well, that's
Maloney's injured. Obviously, Mick Carney's got injured.
You might
You're
see
down to the who else is in the Heineken Cup squad?
no one.
Pretty much very few.
That's it. Yeah.
You're looking to Reece Ruddock to cover, or you're looking to.
you might play Fardy at 6 maybe.
Yeah. Well, we've got 4 locks.
Still, that means still you're playing Fardy. So
Sure, but like if one of the second rows got
We have-
injured,
Keep moving forward.
No, but I'm saying if you could leave, you're saying you've got Toner and you've got Ryan, so therefore you don't need Fardy. Well,
But you do because you.
But you
yeah,
do.
because we've got 5 locks in the squad, if you like, if you include Fardy as a lock. But 2 of them are injured. One of them is certainly out for the semi-final. One of them we don't know
not
yet.
sure.
But you know, so we are a bit. And somebody actually, it's Mike Whelan asked the question. He asks, "Do we have a crisis at 7?" We have an injury crisis. I don't think we have a crisis at 7, but we have an injury crisis at 7 right now. But there's not much we can do about it.
Sean O'Brien and Max Deegan are
Sean O'Brien and Max Deegan
Heineken
are
Cup
the
squad.
only 2 guys in the squad really who play there. I mean, I've
You've
seen
got Scott Penny for the
Ruddock has played there and stuff like that. But he's not for the Heineken Cup squad.
no,
He's not
for
he's
the
not-
Pro 12. I
yeah.
was going or Pro 14.
So yeah, there's an injury crisis at 7, but there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's just the way it is.
But like I tell you, Max Deegan's performances in the last few weeks, he's pushing his name further up that team sheet.
Yeah, and I think it's good that it's good for a guy like that to get a run of games too. You know, you often hear players say, "Oh, you know, if they're back to the end of the queue. The big players come back and they're just not getting the look in." Like, you know,
But every dog has its day, like, you know, and fellas, he was obviously in a, you know what I mean, he was playing in a position where you had, at the time when he started, the current Irish number 8 was there. Now he's got the reserved Irish number 8 ahead of him. Do you know what I mean? It's hard for him. He's not going to just leapfrog in. Whereas you just say, if you take Ryan, you know, he was kind of fortunate. O'Callaghan came to the end of his career. O'Connell came to the end of his career. And there was kind of a gap. There was
A churn.
you know what I mean? But there was, okay, you had Toner was there and Henderson. And he's
And
kind
then
of...
Donegal Ryan left.
Donegal Ryan left. And so, you know, he was fortunate that a big
gap
wide
opened
gaping
up.
hole opened up for him to kind of fill.
I get the feeling James Ryan would have forced his way through that
yeah.
hole if it hadn't
No,
been there.
no,
but yes,
absolutely.
you do have to.
Absolutely.
he's
sometimes
a
you do
good
have
man
get
to
that
make a few holes. Or
Yeah, you do have to get that opportunity. A bit like Jack Dunn did the other night.
yeah. Jesus, he
That
was a
might take
machine,
an
wasn't he?
opportunity. But no, we don't. We have an injury crisis at 7, but you could have an injury crisis anywhere. Really, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't tell the future. If you could, nobody'd ever get injured.
Yeah. So it's I suppose the weekend's results kind of threw up a few interesting little permutations for...
We actually, sorry, we do have another question about that match before we move on.
Well, I wasn't going to move on. Go
All right, go on. No, you
go on,
carry
go
on. Then. No, then I'll bring it in order.
No, I was just going to say that result keeps Treviso in third spot now ahead of Edinburgh. They're like, you know what I mean, it's bunching up, and there's some great fixtures, and we come to them in a while, but some great fixtures next week that's really going to put cats amongst pigeons.
Yeah.
You could have a situation where there's no Welsh teams in the senior competition in Europe.
Yeah,
Quite easily.
very easy.
In fact, it looks quite likely as things stand. I mean, certainly no automatic qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be tricky for them. But we did have a question again from Mike about the Benetton Treviso try. I think you were talking about it as well. The one was their blocking.
Yeah,
Was
yes.
the call right? It's a tricky one because you have to remember if you come from an onside position and you maintain your line, it doesn't matter who you run into. There's no requirement in rugby for you to get out of anyone's way.
You just can't run into
You just can't
people's
deliberately.
way.
You can't change your line. So if he's come from an onside position, he's quite entitled to run into
I even
James Lowe.
resenting him at that.
And I mean, we've done it. We do it a lot. One of our key moves for a long time involved dummy runners running
straight into the
legal
defence.
blocking lines. I mean, there is a legal blocking line, and that's what they were doing.
Yeah, I
Secretly-
didn't see much wrong with it.
No.
Yeah. And secretly, I have to say, I was delighted with that result and Treviso coming back to score.
It's not a secret anymore, Jason.
No,
Yeah. You just told 4 people.
I did. But
Two
I
of
was.
us.
But I was thrilled. I was thrilled. I think if we want our league to grow, we need to have like the top 2 teams will play each other next week. Glasgow and Leinster, leaders of both conferences, who actually won the same conference last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last week I mentioned that 3 of the 4 semi-finalists were the same teams that appeared in the semis the previous year and the year before that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want... You need some new blood coming into these competitions if it's to thrive.
Yeah.
And I want an Italian team to do well.
Well, Scarlets look like they won't be coming into the mix at all, are they? I mean, they've
They've had a very poor season, haven't they?
they have.
By their standards, anyway.
Okay, they've 2 easy games coming up, but you know, Edinburgh and Treviso and Ulster are, you know, looking like they could. They don't need to do a whole lot to stay ahead. Ulster, I think, are 9 points ahead of Scarlets. Okay, they've got 2 hard fixtures, but a couple of bonus points would put them ahead of Scarlets. Which doesn't necessarily guarantee them anything, but it guarantees that Scarlets are pretty much going nowhere. So, and even Treviso are only 2 points behind Ulster. So, any kind of win against Zebre puts them ahead of Scarlets.
Well, Edinburgh are 6 points ahead of Scarlets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the closest team. Like, it's 4th versus 5th.
Yeah, but they're playing Glasgow and they're playing Ulster at home though next.
Yeah, well, obviously that we'll come to those fixtures in a while. But Dave, you've got the tries there. Do you want to lash them up?
We'll run through them. Bit of quick thinking.
Yeah. This was always going to happen. Oh, their defence on the line was pretty good, as was ours.
They did help hold us up a couple of times. I mean, when you consider how not just makeshift, but how upset our lineup was with injuries and stuff quite early in the match, having to use guys that maybe we didn't want to use straight away. It actually turned out kind of well for us. I mean, I don't think the idea would have been for Jack Dunn to play as much as he did, or Kieran Frawley to play as much as he did,
or Penny.
And look at he's just determined to finish it.
Yeah, good man, Jimmy.
Because it was talk that Scott Penny was coming near his limit of games as a younger player. I think he's allowed to play 25 games a season or something.
Well, like Cullen alluded to it, you know.
And Tamani wasn't bad either.
So even there, you see, when there's a quick tap to be taken, James Lowe is there hunting around looking for an opportunity.
Yeah. 70 metres from where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Tamani didn't set the world on fire, but he was solid enough. He did a few good things.
Yeah.
I think his confidence must be kind of rock bottom. You know, he's an Aussie international. He's not a bad player.
No. This was
the by now traditional James Byrne try, or Brian Byrne try.
Yeah.
Fred Byrne.
It's James Byrne.
Don't know.
He's racking them up as well.
He scores a lot of tries though.
I think if you're a hooker in Leinster, you must
like Anthony Foley in the good old days.
Yeah.
Getting on the back of mauls and off the back of scrums. He was their leading Heineken Cup try scorer.
He is, yeah.
Still is he? Yeah.
Well, did Earls beat it last week?
Might, I'm not sure.
He might have done. I'm not sure, but he scored a buttload of tries anyway.
He sure did. Miraculous for a forward, but again, lots of mauls.
Think you get free pizza for life?
This was a good one.
This is
This is
the
splendid.
movement that
Yeah.
I don't think the telly really shows, just gives it justice.
Hmm.
But when you're at the ground, just the lines.
Where
of
did
running,
he come from?
Everyone was running and holding people.
Yeah,
Hmm. There you go.
everyone was in motion. And a good bit of toe there.
Yeah. That was lovely to get for his confidence to get that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah.
He actually had a super game.
He had a very good. The one thing I'd say is that his passing can be quite unforgiving.
Mm.
He does tend to bullet it, and sometimes it's not always. Sometimes he
But that was worth the price
Oh,
of the
yeah.
admission, wasn't
but
it?
it's something he'll learn. He's a young player. He'll learn that sometimes you don't have to fling it out. Sometimes you can take a bit of heat off it.
Well, he scored 14 points. I think he ran for 40 metres, made 15 tackles, didn't miss any, and got 4 from 4 from the boot.
Nice
But
one.
apart from that, what did he do for us?
But he came on well. He
a big
came
lad.
on early, you know,
Yeah.
because Noel Reid went off relatively
Bang in the head,
maybe
yeah.
15, 20 minutes in. So he, that's a big ask for him to come on when
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
mentally thinking, I'm going to get 20 minutes here. He's going to get an hour.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I thought he did very, very well. I mean, you can see his development. That's all you want from a guy in that position. You just want him to, every time you see them play, you want to see them add a little something, and that's.
And
that's
he's
what it
done
is.
so well.
Yeah.
Jason just called out the stats there. They're pretty
Yeah.
impressive
Yeah.
for a young lad.
Well, some of the other results from the weekend, I watched the Munster match on Friday evening. It was kind of, Cardiff were actually ahead at half
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and they think they got a couple of tries just after half time.
Munster have done that a few times now.
Well, they emptied their bench. They
Mm.
brought on like CJ, and then Murray went.
Yeah.
Like all their big names stood up for them. Murray
Yeah.
scored. CJ scored. What's his name? What's his name?
The other lad.
Yeah, sorry.
Great fella.
Conway and Sammy Arnold scored tries. So
Yeah.
all of their big players stood up, and I think they scored 4 tries unanswered to Cardiff.
Yeah, that's a team like Munster can do that. They can just kind of go, oh yeah, okay. They flick the switch, whether that's even from the bench or in their heads, and they just motor through a team like Cardiff.
Yeah.
They just do. I mean, I think that
Did Connacht the big favour there too?
they did. Yes, they did. They did do Connacht a big favour. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a good win for Munster. I only watched the last 25 minutes of it, but
You saw the best half.
I saw the best part of it. Yeah, I think from the comments.
And you
I
probably
was-
saw the best part of the Ulster game
Yeah.
as well then.
yeah, from the comments I was hearing, that was the Ulster game as well. Yeah, yeah.
7-0 Ulster were winning. And that was it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glasgow came back and scored
And,
a shitload.
Murdo's lads had a nice victory.
They did.
Well done, Murdo's lads.
So that was a bad result for them, all right. And
It was-
it's kind
no.
of
It was not only was it a bad result in and of itself, it was a bad result on top of the previous week's action.
Yeah.
When they would have hoped to take something from that. I mean, I know they changed the team a lot, but kind of gain some kind of redemption, and it didn't happen for them.
Hmm.
well, like if you compare it to Edinburgh's result,
They were way behind as well, weren't
But yeah, exactly, and both teams had the disappointment of losing quarterfinals that they were
Yeah, they could well have
that
won.
could have well have won. They weren't by any means embarrassed or anything like that, and they came back and were quite impressive. And when you look at how poor Ulster were, like they conceded 30 points to nothing, and especially now with Treviso getting those 2 points in Dublin,
they? Yeah,
it's
well,
kind of
things
opened
look
up a
tough
door
for
a little
Ulster,
bit
yeah.
for them.
Yeah, it has actually. Yeah.
There are a couple, as I was saying earlier, there are a couple of points ahead of Treviso, but Treviso have got to play Zebre. They've also got Munster at home.
I'm not sure how much effort. It's hard to know. Leinster in Ravenhill.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we might give them a bit of a gimme there.
'Cause you never know what'll happen after the semi-final.
Let them get their own back after
Yeah.
the semi-final.
So that'll be interesting. They might be thinking, they can go fully loaded with that. I mean, they've nothing else to.
But we don't know. I mean, like we could end up losing.
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And then we'll be angry.
Yeah. It might be interesting, but it's it's actually really, really tight. There's actually a very good article on Football 365 by a guy called Johnny Nicholson. He's a really good writer, talking about how the glass ceiling in English football has turned into a steel door, where you've got the big six, and basically what every other club in England is playing for is to finish seventh, because the glass, what once was a glass ceiling, has been reinforced by bucket loads of money after Leicester winning, from the big six, to make sure it won't happen again. And to a certain extent, it's not for the same reasons, but that exists in the Pro 14 as well. You've got Glasgow, Leinster, Munster, and very few teams get to join that club. You usually get one rotating kind of team per year, but the big three are still the big three and are always the big three.
And if you went back over the last 10 seasons, I bet you that Leinster, Munster and Glasgow have been in the top three probably 8, if not 9 times.
In fairness, the Scarlets won it 2 years ago, and last year were in the final. So
but they're nowhere now, and they were nowhere a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, Ospreys are the team that fell out of the thing. They were the dominant.
You had
They were the
Ospreys,
dominant
and then
Glasgow replaced them.
and Scarlets for and then you could say Connacht had a
Leicester
moment. It was the same year as well.
Yeah,
wasn't
that's right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But I mean, it's not replicable for a lot of those teams, because I don't think. I mean, unlike say Leinster and Munster, to be honest with you, they don't really have the size of squad.
The only thing that you might see is during World Cup years.
Yeah,
which was actually Connacht's year.
That's something that Glasgow do have. They have a huge squad. They've a very good squad. They might not have
second 15.
They might not have as good a first 15 as perhaps as we do, but
they have a very, very good second. They have good depth.
They have very good depth.
Yeah,
and that gets them through a lot of those games where while the Cats are away, they go out and trash fucking Kings or somebody down wherever. It's just that's what they have. And they've got guys like your man Matawalu. They've got quite a few decent foreigners.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
they've a load of wingers. They've a load of guys that are just very high quality for second stringers in the Pro 14.
But it's pity they can't hold on to
the big ones.
Well, like Hogg is going at the end of this season.
Finn Russell
left last year. And, there's always seems to be.
Hogg's a big loss.
Yeah.
But they've also.
But
they hung on to Tommy Seymour.
But remember they lost the Fijian scrum half and like Manawat.
He
came back. Sorry, I meant the big second row guy.
Yeah.
He's
Nakarawa.
Sorry, yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's always like they kind of get them and then they just can't seem to hold on to them and use them to build their team around.
Yeah, the problem I think for Glasgow was when they had all those guys at the one time for that maybe one season that everyone was there at their peak. They were never quite able to.
But that was the year they got to the final.
That was the year they got to the final against us, but they couldn't do it in Europe. Yeah. They couldn't quite.
Yeah, they always disappoint in Europe.
Yeah, they always do.
And you think like they should be. They always seem to be drawing Saracens. That seems to be like I don't know how many times they've played. We played Edinburgh just before we won the European Cup. We seemed to play Edinburgh every season. I think it was 3 or 4 seasons in a row we played Edinburgh. Whereas they seem to draw Saris.
And they quite often beat us until that day in Murrayfield with Rocky Elsom and the boys.
That's correct. Connacht beat Zebre. Zebre had beaten them twice.
That was
last 2 matches.
Nail biter.
Yeah.
6-5. I couldn't believe because I had to leave to go to our match and it was still 6-5 with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they checked on the way down that they had held on, which was it's not the kind of game you expect with Connacht and Zebre playing, is it? You don't expect them to be...
Two teams who do throw the ball around a lot.
You don't expect them to be 6-5, not a try to be seen for Connacht. But fair play to them, they grounded out and they're now in a good position. They're actually, they have their rivals Cardiff going to them this week.
We'll go through those, John. Just real quickly, just some of the other results. Scarlets obviously were beaten by Edinburgh, we spoke about briefly. It was a big result for Edinburgh. It keeps them in the hunt still for their European and obviously quarter-final place in the playoffs. The Kings drew 18 apiece with the Dragons.
That was a mad result as well, yeah. Again, 2 teams you'd expect to be, the Kings certainly throw the ball about.
Yeah, I suppose they only scored 18.
And there was 4 yellow cards in the game. I didn't see it, but I believe there was 4 yellow cards.
Apparently it was a mental game, completely mental game. So.
And the other South African team were beaten by
comprehensively
14-31 to the Ospreys.
Yeah, and I think they came back to get the 14, so the game was won by the time they came back. The Ospreys coming into a bit of late form. The Ospreys could actually catch Cardiff for the European playoff game because they're playing Cardiff in the final round, and if they win,
playoff.
if they it could be a playoff for the playoff, and if they win and Cardiff don't, then it's all to. In fact, whether Cardiff win or not, I think it's all to play for in the last. There's 3 points between the teams, if I'm not mistaken, currently. So, any result, it's all down to the last game for the two of them. So that's another. The last round looks to be shaping up to be really. There's very few games with nothing on them.
Yeah.
At all. Probably the two South African teams. It's the only game with really nothing riding on.
Yeah.
Like,
Every other derby has.
You've got obviously Leinster are kind of clear, but Glasgow and Munster are still a bit tete-a-tete.
Leinster are clear, but Ulster are going to need the points.
You've got Ulster needing points. You've got Edinburgh needing points. You've got Munster and Glasgow needing points. I mean, apart from Leinster,
Connacht want the points that Munster are looking
apart
for.
from Leinster, every team needs something, and the South African teams, and maybe Dragons. Every team needs something because they're either going for to top the group, they want a home semi-final, they want to get it into the playoffs, they want to get into the European playoff. So there's a load of stuff. I mean, it's like, really active.
They've been kind of splitting into. We didn't like it at the start, and maybe most people still haven't really warmed to it. But it does allow at the end of the
these
season,
things. Yeah,
it does create more teams being with a bit of skin in the game at the end of the season.
Yeah. As long as they don't mess with it, just leave it.
Leave it for a few years.
Leave it for a few years. Let it settle down. Just leave. I mean, okay, they might decide to. I don't mind them if they decide to rejuggle the seedings, kind of thing, to make sure it stays.
They're going to do that. Not this one. Not next season. The one after. I think.
To make sure it stays competitive and the teams stay. Each league stays even, but leave the system. The structure instead of just.
So you don't want the Bulls and the Stormers in then.
I think the Bulls and the Stormers. You can keep the Kings and the Dragons.
Well, next week we take on Glasgow, and as we kind of said, it's two top of the table teams now. Interesting enough, when Glasgow won it last year, now it's obviously 2 more rounds to play. They had 76 points when they won it, and I remember they walked away with it last year, and they kind of slipped up towards the end.
We were on 70 and
we were on 70.
Scarlet,
that's right. Like I think we're on 70. I have it here. We're on 74 at the moment with 2 games to play, and Glasgow on 71. So there's opportunity that both teams will surpass last year's.
Yeah.
Total. Well, we've already done it.
A good friend of the show, Murdo Thompson, is on to us. And wants to know what's our team going to be for Saturday. And he says Rennie asked me to ask. So I'd say a fullback. I'd say a fullback it'll be Davy Langan. On the wings it'll be Steve Highway and Tony Galvin.
Don't think Big Dave is going to buy that one.
No, I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
But you never know.
It's hard to know what they're going to do, but they have to go kind of full strengthish. Maybe Sexton might not make it, but everybody else.
Henshaw, you got to think, is in there.
Well, Henshaw's definitely in there.
Yeah, the comments.
Toner's in there.
The comments from Leo Cullen today were pretty much that those guys are going to be playing on Saturday. The only guy that there's really kind of a question mark over in terms of guys who might be back and fit is Johnny Sexton in terms of whether he's going to do it or not. It's going to be tricky.
But like you want to. We always used to have it going into Europe where you had a match. It's usually against Munster in October where you had a match where you just stuck all the team out to get a bit of continuity going. So you have to have. You could maybe rest sections, like if you wanted your front row not to play, for example, or you wanted your front row to rotate in the opposite direction to the way they were going to rotate. You could do things like that, but I don't think you can just stick the kids out because.
Oh no! I have a feeling that
then your big boys are not going to be
as
set
near
up.
as damn it with maybe 1 or 2 kind of guys just minded a little bit, but not really. The team that'll take on Toulouse, pretty much, because they're going to have to play some rugby at some stage. And actually, Mick Thompson asked the question. And when news that Sexton is on track for the semi-final, should he start against Toulouse? He's played very little rugby, and what he has played has been off his usual brilliant best. Granted, he will regain that, but if he isn't fit for this weekend, should we risk him?
it's a tough question.
No, I personally would say no.
Don't risk him.
Don't risk him. Johnny Sexton is the kind of guy. He's a bit like Brian O'Driscoll, a bit like Sean O'Brien used to be.
He can come
They're
back.
guys who can come back straight away and play well.
It depends on how he's going in training. Depends on how the injury's going. Depends on so
How
many
moany
factors.
he is.
How moany he is. He's always going to be super moany no matter what happens. He could be, we could be out of sight, and he'd still be moaning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see him being rested. It's a pity, but there's as I said earlier, there's between 4 and 6 games left. You're going to want him for, let me see, between 3 and 5 of them.
Yeah.
So, you can rest him versus Ulster and play him and everything else if he's fit. But the only thing is, that's the big if.
Like, they're kind of just reading through the lines of what they're kind of saying. They're saying, like, they're going to assess him this week.
Yeah.
It's certainly not a ringing
No,
endorsement to say that
week
he's...
too soon syndrome. Isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's not a case of we can do what we want. Because they might his body mightn't be signing up to that.
Yeah, like you can see, like say, Toner and Henshaw, again from trying to decipher
Well, they
what
took
they're
part in the
saying.
warm up last week.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Henshaw was the water boy.
Yeah,
So
usually a good sign.
Toner was all what do you call it, blocked up with the
Yeah, there's lifting blocks on. Yeah,
and so he's obviously good to go. And Henshaw is water boy. The water boy theory. The water boy is always good to go the following week.
Yeah.
So what do you think? It has to be Ross Byrne if it's not Sexton, really, doesn't it?
I imagine so.
Surely.
yeah. Unless they decide to give Frawley another run, and protect Byrne as well.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Because
his calf,
he's had between that calf injury and
his foot.
his foot, or we say the cramp, and his foot. He's had a bit of a bad go in the last couple of weeks, and maybe he needs resting too. You
Yeah.
never know.
Well, I'm sure they're trying to be as precautionary as they possibly can. If Sexton has any doubt about him,
He
they
won't be played.
want 100% know that Byrne's
Oh, yeah,
going to
yeah,
be fit.
yeah.
Because you don't want to be going in as good a player as Frawley has potential to be.
You'd rather
Still a
Sexton
bit-
was
bit of a
undercooked
greenhorn.
than injured.
Well, here's a question, and I'm not sure the answer, but you might know. Is Frawley even in the European squad?
That's a
I
good
would doubt
question.
it.
I don't
Because
know.
if he's not, and you've got Johnny Sexton carrying an injury,
I think he is.
and you've got Ross Byrne carrying an injury, and you've got Noel Reid who's had a couple of head
He's had a
injuries.
bang, so
So you find yourself in fairly shaky territory fairly quickly. I'm not sure Frawley is. I don't know. You might know. You might be able to look it
I
up
think he is. I'll look it up while you're.
But it, to a certain extent, it's a bit like the way we find ourselves in the back row with Scott Penny not been in the European squad, So it's
And Nick McCarthy,
and
the
Nick
scrum half.
McCarthy not been in it either. So, but I mean, hindsight is perfect vision, and we don't have that. But for Glasgow, I think we'll play a strong enough a team as the coaches feel comfortable putting out in that match.
yeah. It's interesting. We haven't played Glasgow since 2 weeks after.
Frawley is.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
We haven't played Glasgow since we played them 2 weeks. We played them in, I think it was November 17, which was a couple of weeks after the European Cup match over in Glasgow. We went back over with an entirely different team.
That's right, yeah.
But we haven't, just the way the peculiarities of the
home and away and the home or away. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's a good while since it's unusual, like, isn't it, that the two top teams in the league
Have met so infrequently.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's hard to know. Like, I mean, this, as I said, like, I just thought I'm just so impressed with Deegan, like that he's just coming through so well. Like, he showed them one of the tries there. He took a colossal hit. It was a great carry, and still managed to get the ball laid back perfectly for quick ruck ball. Even though he took some heavy duty dinting
Punishment.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did all right.
No Wanderers bias there, Jason.
none at all.
Well, I saw the another guy who is in the European squad, Vac, is off in.
Yeah, he's off to play the Free Jacks.
He's off to play the Free Jacks. If he gets caught short, he'll always have a Free Jacks. But
An expansion team in Major League Rugby.
is that what they are?
They are, yes. They'll be playing Major League Rugby next season.
Right.
Interestingly enough, I was talking to you about this, and this is my definition of interesting, it mightn't be anyone else's.
we
USA
go.
Rugby are currently been sued by two separate people. They've been sued by Doug Schrodinger, who owned Pro Rugby,
Oh yeah.
which was the predecessor of Major League Rugby, and they're also been sued by UWS, who trade as rugby sevens, who were granted the rights in perpetuity, apparently, to run the American leg of the HSBC sevens.
Okay.
Both are suing USA Rugby for, amongst other things, fraud and conspiracy to commit fraud. Both have named World Rugby as co-defendants. And neither are very much nice things to say about Augustin Pichot, funnily enough. But Pro Rugby are saying that USA Rugby and World Rugby basically gouged them out of their right to organise professional rugby in North America. And UWS, trading as Rugby Sevens, are saying that USA Rugby and World Rugby basically gouged them out of their right to organise Sevens rugby in North America. So there's going to be some interesting days for the lawyers there, but
America and litigation.
I was just about to say.
It's very hard to believe.
It's just about to
It brings
say.
us nicely to a question we have from Craig Williamson, or not so much a question as a statement. A good shout out to the men's sevens team winning in Hong Kong, qualifying for the World Rugby Sevens series, which is very, very true.
Yeah. And another rounding success for David Nucifora.
Another resounding success for David Nucifora. I mean, the way Jordan Conway's been scoring tries for... hold on, there's no link between sevens rugby and 15 rugby. But no, it is. I mean, if we can get onto this circuit and stay on it and qualify for the Olympics, we might actually make some money out of it. I mean, because it's, like we were saying earlier, it's expensive to send 20 odd guys and support staff jet setting around the world, especially for the tier 2 competitions where there's not a lot of money there. But if you can get onto the HSBC sevens, which World Rugby underwrites a lot because nobody makes any money out of sevens, and into the Olympics where you can make money because it's the Olympics, might do okay.
Whatever happened to the amateur ethos of the Olympics?
Yeah, whatever happened. Yeah. I'll tell you what happened. Money happened.
But we talk about all of those, the 55 players in the Leinster squad and all the guys that are coming through our academy, and they're kind of in a bit of limbo because they see, just say you're a scrum half coming through and you go, oh God, look, there's, you mentioned 3 or 4 of them, O'Sullivan, Patterson, all these guys who are just sort of, and then if a new guy comes along, what does he do? Where does he go? All the guys ahead of him are relatively young, like Luke McGrath is probably only in his
There's
mid-20s.
another guy coming through, Gonzaga guy.
But the point is
Kenny.
that they need some, to just go and languish in playing for UCD or Lansdowne or, an AIL team, or do you have an opportunity to go off on tour? Mightn't make the best money in the world, but you know what? It's what a life experience it must be.
You probably picked a bad example because sevens doesn't really cater for skill positions like scrum half. There's no, they don't use scrum halves in it. They use guys to play scrum half and they're usually winners. But yes, for guys like, say, there was for Billy Dardis, who's the captain of the squad, for guys like Terry Kennedy, who was in the squad, guys who were at academy level and weren't sure if they were going to go one way or the other. It gave them a huge opportunity.
Like even our old friend Mick McGrath.
Yeah, he's currently in the squad.
Yeah.
I still think it's a different enough sport, like just on a different thing, that it should be actually run in and of itself. It's a sport. I think rugby sevens is now a sport in and of itself, like rugby league is. It's sufficiently different.
Interesting article actually on Kevin Darcy.
Ooh, I'm taking it to the danger zone, Mean Gene.
His uncle.
Yeah.
Dardis was, mentioning that he still considers himself a 15s player and would be disappointed if he didn't
make the most
of it. A very interesting article actually. We were speaking about it off air. He was kind of a superstar kid coming through school, the best kid of his year, and he just seemed to.
Terranure, wasn't he? Terranure?
He was in Newbridge and he went to Terranure on scholarship for a couple of years. But
he plateaued.
The thing was, I think he
expected.
Injured a lot. No, he expected that it would just happen for him, that it would click in, that he'd have a big game and he'd play, and it didn't happen. And he didn't make the mental adjustment to say I have to make the big performance. It's not just, whereas in schools you're just used to been maybe the best player, the fastest player, and everyone else is the same age as you, and you can outgun them or out muscle them. But when you're playing against professional athletes, it's not that easy. When you're 18 or 19 and the other guys around you are matured men at 25.
Yeah, he did have injuries, but didn't he get a development contract? But he got injured a lot through either it was his last year in the academy or his development contract year. He didn't get any game time because he was injured pretty much.
In fairness to him, he was very harshly self-analytical in that article. Maybe overly harshly, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, it's good that he has that second sport to fall back on in a way, and it keeps them within the thing. I mean, I don't think there's too many guys in that team who could make the transition to sevens or to 15s. Him and there's one or two others, maybe Terry Kennedy.
Didn't Adam Burns play sevens? Didn't the fullback for Ulster play on a sevens team as well?
Yeah, well, Adam Burns played for sevens 4 years after he'd made his debut for Leinster, so it's not as if sevens had made any real difference to his career.
Well, it would have given him an opportunity to.
But it did give him an opportunity to get fit back, get back fit after a couple of leg breaks.
That's the one thing about sevens though. You need some serious lungs on you for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much. There's nowhere to hide like there is in 15.
There's loads of spaces to hide because you've got twice as much space.
No, what I mean is, it's not like if you've got a lot of other guys making tackles and hitting rucks. And,
if one guy misses a tackle, it's a try. I mean,
Exactly.
there's no great depth to the tactics in sevens.
And
if one guy misses a tackle, it's a try.
It's well known that it does burn your lungs, like it's more than 15s.
You have to be fitter.
You have to be fitter. Yeah.
It's a different discipline. It's a different skill set, different kind of fitness.
But rugby is, as you know, the old thing was it was a game for all shapes and sizes. Sevens really isn't a game for all shapes and sizes. Everyone needs to be, as you said, a winger or a flanker or a centre. There's no props, no proper props in it.
There's no tight five players ever going to make.
It's a game for whippets.
Yeah,
if you like. That's the kind of game it is, and you look at what people have to do. People keep trying to think, sevens is going to be great development for 15s. It's not. It's useless. Rugby league is better for 15s than sevens. But what sevens is a brilliant sport in its own right. And why aren't people happy to just leave it be that?
but that's what England have kind of done, isn't it? They've focused on it.
Yeah. It's completely separate from
the Hong Kong Sevens has kind of changed. Back maybe 30 years ago, 25 years ago, the Hong Kong Sevens was a reward, kind of in April, for fellas who had slogged their guts out in the winter playing, club rugby and international rugby, and then they all kind of went off on a jolly.
Yeah, got drunk, got new suits made, and played rugby.
And down to, but now, it's entirely different. You saw sort of the levels of, say, professionalism that English rugby or English sevens brought to it. The levels of fitness were unprecedented, and they were just fellas that they said, you're not probably going to make it in 15s, or for whatever reason you might have had an injury, or might have had fellas in front of you, but there's an opportunity now to excel in a different sport.
One of the second tier tournaments, the ones that Ireland were playing in last year, and England have so many players that they have a team on the HSBC sevens, and they have a team on that tier 2 tour, if you like. And because there was a World Cup coming up, their coach was deliberately going out and starting games or finishing games short-sighted, in order for the players to practice in competitive matches what it was going to be like if they got a yellow card or whatever like that. So they were playing games, because England are very, very good at it. They were playing games like 6 players or 5 players, just to get players used to that concept. So there's that kind of tactical depth is going into sevens now, certainly from England. But I think England have divorced their sevens program from the 15 program pretty much fully.
Yeah.
Well, England, who the big earners in world rugby were always England, and now they're in dire straits financially. And not only that, but they've discovered they've got to replace bits of Twickenham. The stands have to.
That's right. Yeah.
Really? Do you know this?
Yeah.
They're in serious shit financially anyway. They're laying off a lot of staff. But now, on top of all that, they've discovered that there was a 30-year lifespan on all these plastic parts at the top of the stands, and they have to be replaced at a cost of millions in the next year or two. So things are not looking so rosy financially for the RFU.
I have a question for you, Jason, actually, because you're a numbers guy. Saracens have converted 45 million pounds worth of debt into equity. What does that actually mean? I genuinely... Seriously.
On the spot there, Jason?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I thought you might. I was hoping you might.
No.
They've changed it from debt into bullshit, basically.
Yeah, I was just wondering what it meant. I mean, I know it means that I don't know what it means.
Well, normally what it means is they give people shares in the company rather than their money back.
Their money back, which is what they've done, yeah.
So that's what it means. But what it means in their case
So
specifically,
it basically means that Nigel Ray has decided to write off 45 million quid that the club owns him.
something like that. Well, him and the other South African backers.
Yeah. Fair play.
So yeah, effectively yes, that's what it means.
Interesting. And any other rugby news, Dave?
Rugby news.
Or rugby questions?
I'll check.
We've got the rest of the games to look forward to.
Yes, we can do that.
Oh, sorry, we haven't gone through
after I check our social media hub. No.
Okay. Well, we'll have a look at some of the other games. Now, as I kind of mentioned earlier, there's some really ding-dong matches next week. Connacht, I think, is probably the pick of them. They're third at the moment. They play Cardiff, who are fourth. So just
If
4
Connacht
points.
can win this,
If Connacht win that, they're in a great chance.
they're in a really good
They're
spot.
4 points ahead of Cardiff at the moment, anyway.
Yeah.
So once they just maintain that,
So win this 6-5 again,
Mhm.
and they're happy days. You know,
That's all
yeah,
that matters.
they can't actually be caught. You know, if they win, yeah,
Yeah.
they can't be caught by anybody. So they're win this and they're in the knockouts.
there's a huge banana skin for Ulster coming up. They play Edinburgh away.
I wouldn't call that a banana skin. I'd call that a bloody hard. A banana skin is a game you're expected to win that you
For sure.
might not.
Okay.
This is definitely not. This is two teams that are going for the last place in the knockouts, going head to head.
Mm-hmm.
And Edinburgh in some good form. I know they lost to Munster in Europe, but they did some serious. And I know Scarlets aren't exactly top of the tree, but they did some serious comebacksville against the Scarlets, and they're one tough team. If everybody blames it on Richard Cockrell, and he's probably a lot to blame in a good way. For them being so mentally tough now, and they dig out games that they wouldn't have dug out under Alan Solomon.
Yeah.
They
Under
just
any of the previous coaches.
or any of their previous coaches probably. So that's a serious proposition, and they're at home. I think Ulster will be doing bloody well to win
Yeah.
over.
See, Edinburgh were always traditionally a
So-
good team with a soft underbelly.
I'd call
Now
Ulster
they're-
the banana skin team for
Yeah,
Edinburgh.
okay.
Now they're
sure.
a good team with a hard underbelly.
Mm.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
like an armadillo.
there's 3 points separate those two sides anyway. Ulster ahead 54 points.
Mm-hmm.
And another game that pits kind of two teams vying for qualification is Treviso host Munster.
Yeah, that's very significant for both teams.
Yeah.
Big game for
Like Munster are the week before their semi-final against Saracens, so they may have their eye just fractionally off the
well,
ball.
I thought it was significant that they played all of their stars. Well, they put them on the bench and then they brought them on. But
Mhm.
I think when the game was going, kind
Away
of
from
downhill or going away from them, that they ended up having to bring them on where they mightn't have intended to bring them on.
So early.
Well, even for half an hour, they might have just wanted to give them 5
A
minutes
run
or
out.
10 minutes if necessary.
I'd be thinking that maybe they might actually start some of those guys
Do you think
And
they're
then-
going to play them 4 weeks in a row,
and
Dave?
then whip them off on 50 minutes, no
Mhm.
matter how it's going.
Yeah, perhaps, but they'd have played. They would have played.
Oh yeah, they would have. Yeah,
So it'd be 4
I'm not sure-
weekends in a row.
but they don't. I mean, Munster do have some injuries.
Like that's
I'm
not the way.
Sure they have
Like you're smiling there, John. That's not the way it's done in Ireland. Do you know what I mean? It's
I'm not sure they have a huge amount of choice because they do have some injuries and they don't have the squad depth maybe that we have, and they do actually need points. Munster need points or would like to have points, maybe
Yeah.
not need, but they certainly would require a few. So they
Well,
might try and.
whoever slips up,
Munster are pretty much guaranteed second.
Oh,
they're
yeah, they're
guaranteed
guaranteed
second,
second,
but whoever slips up between them and Glasgow
Yeah, they're 3 points behind Glasgow.
are gonna, So if Glasgow just need any 2L wins, but they do have to come away to Leinster.
Yeah.
And then they've got to play they're at home to Edinburgh, I think, in the final round.
Munster would prefer not to have to play a quarter final, I'd assume.
Of
Of
course.
course.
Yeah.
Unless they get the, I don't know, they get an extra home fixture with, I don't know, maybe 15,000, 20,000 turning up and.
In terms of the revenue, yeah.
I don't know.
That's true, yeah.
But if somehow Munster get over Saracens, they'd like that extra.
I'm sure they would.
Week off.
I'm sure they prefer, on the pitch success rather than.
Yeah.
bank
Well,
account
they'd
success.
rather a week off that week than a week off for the Heineken Cup
Yeah,
final.
exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Wouldn't we all?
Well, their coach has re-signed for another couple of
Oh, yeah,
seasons.
saw
So I thought it was interesting that he said that he was you know, that they had to fight hard to hold on to him.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have thought that his current results in the last year and a half have justified him being highly sought after. You know, I don't think it was like Lancaster. We might have had to fight hard to keep.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
People say these things for whatever reason. But I think it's good for Munster to have a bit of continuity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, definitely.
Because they've had
Continuity is
so
really
much
important,
change. So since, I don't know, the last 5 years, how many coaches
I
have
think
they
I
had?
heard Conor Murray been interviewed, and he mentioned how many coaches he's had in the last, as you say,
It's crazy.
you know,
Since, what's his name, McGahern went.
yeah,
McGann,
Penny.
Penny, Foley, what's his name? South African guy.
yeah,
That lad.
Jesus, his name's
South
Colin
African
Head.
coach.
The South African head coach,
Yeah, that
Razzie.
lad.
Razzie
Razzie
Rasmus. Sorry, that's it. And that's 6 coaches in
5 years.
since 2009. Anyway, when did
I don't know.
McGann finish? 2010, wasn't it?
I think it was after that, wasn't it?
Not sure. I think it was 2011.
yeah.
When
Well,
did
in,
he finish?
Keep going.
Let's say in the last 10
Well,
years,
Penny,
anyway,
yeah.
less than
Yeah.
10 years. It's a lot of
Sorry,
coaches.
it was Penny I was thinking of rather
Like
than
that-
McGahern.
That's going back to kind of Leinster, mid-noughties kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
Even we,
one a
had
year.
better, we did better than that. Even
Well,
Not
Penny,
quite.
we had fewer coaches.
Penny
Yeah.
had 2 years, I think, didn't he?
Penny had 2 years, yeah. Then Anthony Foley came in, and there was that whole thing anyway that ended up with Razzie Rasmus being coach. And he was there for what, 2 years,
A year and a half.
year and a half, yeah. And then obviously McGann came in, or Van Graan came in.
He's
So
had a year and a half.
he was at a year and a half.
So I think they
So
need
I think the stability in
they
the
need a
coaching
bit of-
position is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they need a bit of that.
Yeah, I was just when you were talking about Edinburgh, I was going to ask you, do you think Leicester kind of made a huge mistake sacking Cockrell after what?
With hindsight, yes.
Hindsight,
but
you know?
Yeah.
coaches
I think-
get stale. Even
yeah,
Joe
yeah.
Schmidt said that, 5 years is.
Yeah.
And Checa said it as well.
Yeah,
After 5
that's
years,
right, yeah.
they stop listening to you. Saying the same shit. I mean, you can only come up with so many
Different ways to say
different ways to say the same thing. So yeah, while Cockrell may be doing a lot better where he is than Leicester are where he was,
If that makes sense.
if that makes sense, he probably did need to move for his own sake as well as Leicester's.
Yeah, because he'd been
But
there
they're in a
for very long
relegation
time.
scrap now,
Yeah, they are, yeah.
big time. Like they're playing Newcastle, and it's kind of nearly whoever wins.
But the one thing we can be sure of
It's
is it's
safe.
not Jordy Murphy's fault.
Apparently,
It might be Ford's fault.
It might be Mike Ford's fault, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate to see a club like Leicester in that kind of situation, but they're not the first club to be there. I remember Northampton Saints were relegated before.
Quins.
I remember Quinn's been relegated.
Mm-hmm.
Not lots of big clubs have been relegated. Bristol were a big club and they were relegated. The only thing is, it kind of, depending on where you are in the Premiership, your attitude to relegation and promotion changes.
of course.
That trap door, its hinges need regular oiling depending on who's where in the league.
Yeah. I heard an interesting comment on it that Leicester had not had the foresight to have any kind of clauses in the players' contracts that they'd release them if they got relegated.
I know some guys on big contracts.
Yeah, so you got, what's his name? Chigama? No, what's his name? Sorry, the centre, the guy, the English.
Oh, Tuilagi.
Tuilagi.
Tuilagi. They fought off Racing and $250,000 or whatever a
I'd
year.
say they put him on big money,
So, if they
No,
go
Reed
down-
wouldn't come cheap.
Well, if they go down and he's getting a big wedge, that's interesting. The only thing is though,
They might loan him off.
yeah, but not to just they might loan him off. He won't be sitting there going, oh, I want to keep my big money and play in the bloody championship. He'll want to play somewhere else. So there'll be a mutually beneficial agreement
Possibly.
if they go down. Still a big if.
In fairness to Bristol, they kind of held on because remember they were supposed to go up and then they didn't go up,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they kind of had signed.
And they
it
poured
up.
another
They,
few Arctic fulls of money
they
at him.
bought your man
They
Ryan,
got back
didn't
up.
they? He was to retire subsequently, but the
Dominic Ryan?
No, sorry, the former Welsh captain
Ryan Jones.
Ryan Jones.
Yeah,
they
they had-
had signed him, and then he retired. Or had to retire, but like even Madigan was on big books, playing down in the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other game that sort of is a bit of note was the only one I think is Scarlets take on Zebra. It gives obviously I would imagine a gimme to Scarlets that they might get 5 points in that will keep them in the heel of the hunt should anyone slip up.
Yeah, but they need someone to slip up.
Yeah.
As I said.
Well, there's going to be teams playing against each other, so they could end up
Yeah.
one's going to take points off the other.
Ulster and Edinburgh are playing against each other, but that doesn't really help Scarlets because one of them is going to be home
Stretching
free
ahead.
of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the other one might be catchable, but then what happens to Treviso? Treviso only have to beat Zebre,
Mm.
and Scarlets can't catch them. And I can pretty rely on Treviso to do that.
Yeah.
I can't remember whether it's home or away, but either way,
Could
Treviso
be
are
a
going to
horse's head in someone's bed.
Treviso are going to win that one if they need to. They're a gritty share of bastards, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's not good for Scarlets. Like, no matter who wins out of Ulster and Edinburgh, it's not good for Scarlets. Sadly, well, it's probably better if I don't know. Who knows?
I wonder how much of the, to find a better phrase, malaise in Welsh regional rugby, apart from the issues we've all discussed, is similar to what we're talking about with the Irish team, in that there's a lot of focus in Wales on the World Cup,
Possibly.
and the players are focused on the World Cup, and players are being conditioned towards that point in the season rather than this point in the season.
But is that true though, that there's a malaise in Irish rugby because players are focused on the
Sorry,
World Cup?
not a when I say malaise, I mean the national team didn't do as well as we thought it would.
No.
And they didn't look the way we would expect them to look.
Yeah.
And my belief, and others have said it as well, but my particular belief is that everything's about the World Cup, and that's fair enough, it's a World Cup year. And players are conditioned to peak at certain times of the season. And that means at the opposite end of the season, it's pre-season. And pre-season happened to fall through the Six Nations this year. Because you looked at the Irish team and they looked lethargic. They didn't look physically powerful, or as physically powerful as we know they are. They looked very conservative tactically. And when you consider you've got a coach like Joe Schmidt, that's not how Ireland
But if you look at
do. That's all. It's just all these little things.
okay, but like I granted on day we had a poor Six Nations. You know, no one can deny that. However, like just look at the Irish provincial sides and where they're doing in the league and the cups. You know, like there's two teams in the semi-final of the European Cup. There's one of the Irish teams is leading one of the pools. There's Munster are second, 3 points behind Glasgow. The other two teams
Are looking like they
are
might make a
looking like that.
playoff.
There's a good chance that they're going to be in the quarterfinals. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the Welsh teams have seemed to, Scarlets are the highest team in 5th position. Dragons are down in 7th in their table.
Cardiff are 4th.
Sorry, Cardiff are 4th. Yes, that's right. But like you saw how poor they were in the match against Munster. They conceded 4 tries in the last 20 minutes.
I'd say they might be up for it though in Connacht.
I
Because
think
they're playing their direct rivals
yeah.
for the
just
spot.
to answer your direct point there, I think that we have an advantage over the Welsh teams in that regard, in that we have a wider, we have a larger squad of better players than the Welsh would have in the Welsh regional teams. So Leinster and Munster.
Well, they are
would have
cash-starved compared
would
to
have
us.
bigger, stronger
to
teams
us.
with more internationals in them. I mean, I don't think we could really say that Leinster have played all that well since November, really. I don't think anyone could say that about Munster. Yeah. I mean, we've done what we've had to do, but I don't think that anyone's been really happy with performances. And players have looked lethargic and heavy legged, like they were in pre-season.
Bar the game against Toulouse.
I was about to say, I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, well, but yeah, no, that's
But okay,
right.
granted.
But since then,
I think
you
they've
look
been
at all those games.
and I remember at the start of the Six.
No, I'm not saying
No.
it's an absolute thing, but I'm just saying it has that look about it.
At the start of the Six Nations, we had spoken about this is the opportunity. This is where Leinster kind of come into their fore because they have a large squad with pretty good players who are going to sub up even from the academy. They're pretty good players. I remember a couple of seasons ago we were putting 50 points on sides during the Six Nations. It wasn't really the case during this sequence, especially once we kind of qualified. Like our last
How
two
did we
matches
manage
we've
to
lost in-
accumulate 635 points?
because we did that in a lot of the matches up to Six Nations. If you look back at the results, there's loads.
Didn't we
of
have
them
a few
up
50 pointers during the Six Nations?
Maybe against the Southern Kings.
I think we did. Anyway,
But I mean, that's what I'm saying.
We have our
That's the
biggest-
advantage we do have a larger number of better players than virtually every other team in the league.
I think we've scored more points than we ever did in any other season.
But
Ever.
losing international players and losing a lot of international players isn't quite the detrimental thing to this Leinster team as it would be to, say, Scarlets or to Cardiff. And I think that's reflected in the situations in the league. But I still think you'll see a different Ireland team playing much better with guys who look much sharper
Jeez, we
come,
hope so.
come July and August when the pre-season starts.
We surely hope so.
Yeah. And on that note, lads, thanks a million, and thanks very much for watching. Cheers.